welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. Late night tonight. I have to work late, so that's why I'm so late. No, this isn't Memdani. This is actually Mahmoud Khalil. If you remember him, he's the guy that the Trump administration was trying to deport for. He's the guy who was kind of like the ringleader of a lot of the protests at Columbia University, and he's an American. He's got a green card. He's and so they were going to deport him, but the courts would not let the Trump administration deport him, saying that you know his wife is an American citizen. They have a kid. They live in New Jersey, and I think New Jersey or New York. I think it's New Jersey, and the liberal judges, of course, they wanted to deport him. Let them. A judge, an Obama appointed judge, stepped in and said, no, you can't deport him. And so, anyway, they he was held in ICE detention for several months, and now he's out and he's being lionized on CNN, of course, and so. But the reason the name of the episode today is the slippery slope is because only a few weeks ago, this guy Mahmoud Mamdani, he's refusing to condemn the phrase. He's refusing to condemn the phrase "globalize the Intifada." He's refusing to condemn the phrase "globalize the Intifada," and globalize the Intifada. He can go into technicalities and nuance about what Intifada means and what it means to different people. What it means to Jews is quite often that is a plan to kill them, to rise up against them and to kill them. And that's how a lot of Jews hear that word Intifada, because they don't, not everybody speaks Arabic to where they would have the nuance to understand that. Well, I did an episode about this guy, and I even called it the Mamdani slope. The Mamdani slope, which is people, there's this thing that they talk about. I've heard it for many years in evangelical thing they talk about. I've heard it for many years in evangelical churches, that if you take a frog and put it in boiling water, it'll jump out immediately, But if you just put the frog in cold water and just gradually increase the heat, slow, little by little by little by little, the frog will stay in the water even though it gets to boiling, and it just falls asleep and dies in the hot water because its body acclimates to the heat, and that's kind of what I meant when I called it the Mamdani slope, because Mamdani refused to condemn globalize the Intifada. He's running for mayor of New York. He's possibly still likely to win, but he's bringing with him his Islamist language that he's not condemning, and New York. A lot of New Yorkers are saying, "Okay, that's okay." And a lot of Jews are saying it too. I mean, there's on the New York Times, there's Jews. There's one of their very famous Jewish columnists who says that there are many Jews that love Mamdani. So they're accepting this Islamist language. And so I see, that's what I consider the slope. That little by little, people are going to begin to accept more Islamist, not necessarily Islamic, but Islamist language and actions and justify them. And because of the banner of free speech in America, a lot of stuff is okay. And so, well, this guy now it's this guy's turn, Mahmoud Khalil. You know, CNN is lionizing him and saying what a hero of First Amendment rights he is, and what a hero to stand up to the evil Christians and the evil Christian America, evangelical Christians, and how he's standing up to the evil Donald Trump and stuff like that. And then CNN was doing one of its puff pieces on him. Of course, Christiane Amanpour did her bit, to lionize him. And then CNN decided to do a sit-down interview with him, and it didn't go too well. And so we're going to look. This is the slope. The slope. It didn't go too well, and so let's just watch it and see how it went.
Just to be clear here, though, do you specifically condemn Hamas, a designated terrorist organization in the United States, not just for their actions on October 7th?
I condemn the killing of all civilians, full stop. But what I don't want to get into is no, I am very clear with condemning all civilians. I'm very straight in my position in that.
No, you're not.
Part, but it's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas while Palestinians are the ones being starved now by Israel. It's not condemning October 6th, where 260 Palestinians were killed by Israel on before October 7. So I hate this selective outrage of condemnation, because this is not, this wouldn't lead to a constructive conversation. And this is also like what we want to deal with is the root causes of why that happened. And it's in no way anyone can justify the killing of civilians.
Mahmoud, we did ask about, we've talked at length about your views, of course, on the Palestinians, but it is fair to ask you about whether you condemn Hamas, because the Trump administration has claimed that you are a Hamas sympathizer. So it's very important to actually ask that question in this broad conversation.
Yeah, I simply asked and protested the war in Palestine. That's what I did. That's my duty as a Palestinian, as a human being right now, is to ask for the stop of the killing in my home country. And that's consistent with who I am. I'm a firm believer in international law and human rights, and all my values come from that point. It's just like, to me, it's always, as I said, disingenuous and absurd to ask such questions when literally 62,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel, and that's why I wouldn't really engage into such questions on condemnation or not, because selective condemnation is not, wouldn't get us anywhere. It's just like hypocrite, to be honest.
In other words, he supports. He does some. Yeah. In other words, you guys, what Trump said is correct. He is a Hamas sympathizer, and he won't condemn it. He won't condemn it. And by the way, Wolf Blitzer right there came to his rescue. Wolf Blitzer, I believe he's Jewish too. I believe Wolf Blitzer is Jewish too. He came to his rescue. And he said to him, "Oh, I know you miss your kid. You haven't seen your kid for a year and everything," and trying to rescue him from the quagmire that he was in. Because CNN has a very clear agenda. you know, to lionize this guy, make him a hero. And you guys, this guy could be running for mayor of New Jersey. I mean, governor of New Jersey pretty soon. I mean, he's not a citizen. He's not a citizen yet. But the way things are going, as crazy as things are going, he could be running for governor of New Jersey. He can't become president because he's not born here, you know. But once he gets his citizenship, if he does get it, he could run for mayor. He could run for governor. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger was not born in America, so he could not become president of the U.S., but he was governor of California. But the guy could not condemn Hamas. Why? Same way Mamdani would not condemn globalized intifada. And you could tell CNN, you could tell that reporter, she really gave him a lot of leeway to correct his what he said, but he didn't want to. He would not condemn Hamas. CNN lionizes this guy. And I don't know if he'll, maybe perchance he's going to watch this video. I just want to say I lived in Gaza. You never lived in Gaza. I know Gaza way better than you do. And I saw with my own eyes what those that you won't condemn. I saw with my own eyes what they did. And I think you're doing a disservice to Arabs everywhere. Can't condemn Hamas, even you probably support them, guarantee it, with the rhetoric. Hamas is stealing food. Hamas isn't just stealing food. They've been stealing money. The whole stupid international community has been sending so much money. Stupid United Nations sending so much money that they've been giving to Hamas to build their tunnels. Yeah, so you know what? He's discovered, and America is just totally the CNN, Christiane Amanpour, and all those left-leaning, you know, heroes of the left. They want to lionize these people. Why? Because they hate Donald Trump. You know, the number one thing is to get Donald Trump and evangelical Christians. And so he's discovered that the number one asset in the United States of America media is to be a victim. If you get to be the victim, you got the gold ring in the U.S. media. And so this guy is discovering that. And in America, you got freedom of speech. You got freedom of expression. You got lots of rights. And so so anyway, the slippery slope. What else is CNN going to make okay next week? What else is CNN going to put the stamp of approval on next week? You know, what else is CNN going to say is okay next week? You know, and let's just watch this again. I know it's infuriating, but
just to be clear here, though, do you specifically condemn Hamas, a designated terrorist organization in the United States, not just for their actions on October 7th?
Okay, so she's not just asking him to condemn what Hamas did on October 7th, but to condemn Hamas, you know, for Well, there's it's very clear what they stand for. And
I condemn the killing of all civilians. Full stop.
full stop. Full stop. Full stop. When people don't speak English good, they always use that full stop. But I don't. I condemn the killing of civilians. Full stop. And
but what I
But do you
I
condemn
don't
Hamas
want to get into
specifically?
is no I condemn the killing of all civilians.
I condemn the killing of civilians. Full stop. Full pal. He was going to say Palestinian, but then he changed it to civilians. Full stop. Okay. This is total left-wing media lingo, and he uses a lot more of it.
Full stop. But what I don't want to get into is.
She said, "Do you condemn Hamas specifically?"
No, I am very.
No, he said no. I
clear with condemning all civilians.
I condemn all civilians. He didn't mean to say I condemn all civilians. He meant to say I condemn the killing of all civilians. But
very straight in my position.
Columbia University doesn't teach English very good. If this is the way he talks.
Straight in my position in that part, but it's
in that part. Yeah, let's hear that part again.
All civilians. I'm very straight in my.
You're not very straight. You're not very straight.
Position in that
position.
In that part, but it's
in that part. No, you're not.
It's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas.
Disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas. It's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas. That's a nice big left-wing word. It's a very big left-wing word that the left loves to throw around whenever they're caught in a in a corner. They love to throw around that word disingenuous. One day I just want to look at that word disingenuous. What does it mean to be lacking in candor, giving false appearance of simple frankness, calculating, slightly dishonest, not speaking the complete truth. Now she's asking a question. I mean, you're never going to get me to take the side of a CNN reporter. But in this case, he's kind of calling her disingenuous, not speaking the complete truth. But she's asking a question. And his English kind of sucks. And for him to use a word like this about someone who's given him this amazing platform. So, without condemning October 6th, you see, this reminds me of the way the Turks dealt with the Armenian genocide. Germany was responsible for the Holocaust. They accepted it. They learned from it. They repented as a nation. They apologized to the Jews. They paid reparations. They did so much because they acknowledged, and to this day, it's a crime in Germany to deny the Holocaust. Turkey, on the other hand, doesn't even acknowledge what they did to the Armenians. 1.5 million. They're the original Holocaust of the 20th century, not what Hitler did. But in Islam, you don't have that. need to apologize or to acknowledge what they did. And so you just play victim the whole way. And that's what Turkey does a lot. You know, they play victim. They say, oh, the Armenians are doing that. And with Russia and all this stuff. And so, you know, and what worries me is this guy's a hero right now. I mean, CNN, I think, is making Mahmoud Khalil t-shirts. I think CNN is making Mahmoud Khalil t-shirts and baseball caps, you know, and this guy's a hero on the left to the Democratic Party. He's a hero to the Democratic Party, but he won't condemn Hamas. Selective outrage, another left-wing media phrase. Selective outrage. You know, it's kind of like a feminist word that they use a lot, you know. Selective outrage. And but it looks like he's learned all of these little, and it's America's fault. America's the one that invented these pathetic phrases, you know, to attack others and sound intelligent. Disingenuous, selective outrage. It wouldn't lead to consecutive confrontation. It won't lead to consecutive confrontation. The root causes. What the heck? This is a nice avoidance. This guy's gonna be on in Mamdani's cabinet. This guy's gonna be in Mamdani's cabinet. He's gonna be the social the security czar for Mamdani in New York City. The root causes. Why that happened. Sorry, guys. Oh, you guys aren't watching it. Sorry. I'm getting all worked up here, and you guys aren't even seeing what I'm talking about.
Civilians. I'm very straight in my position, and
very straight in my position on it. Yeah, you're not very straight.
That part, but it's
in that part.
It's disingenuous.
I need to quit.
To ask.
Disingenuous to ask. Why is it disingenuous to ask
about condemning Hamas while Palestinians are the ones being starved now by Israel? It's not condemning October 6th, where 260.
It's not condemning October 6th.
Palestinians were killed by Israel on before October 7. So I hate this selective outrage.
You know, left wing. It's the media's fault. They're the ones who came up with all this bull crap lingo, and he's learned it all. He's learned it at Columbia University. You can tell someone who's been to university. They talk like this.
Outrage of condemnation,
because outrage of condemnation.
This is not. This wouldn't lead to a constructive conversation.
It wouldn't lead to constructive conversation.
And this is also like what we want to deal with is the root causes of.
We want to deal with the root causes as a way of avoiding the topic.
Why that happened, and
why that happened, why what happened.
And it's in no way anyone can justify
just to be clear,
the killing of civilians.
There's no way anyone can justify the killing of civilians. Well, then condemn it.
Mahmoud,
Yeah.
we did ask about, we've talked at length about your views, of course, on the Palestinians, but it is fair to ask you about whether you condemn Hamas because the Trump administration has claimed that you are a Hamas sympathizer.
You're a Hamas sympathizer. That's what President Trump said. So here, show that you're not. Now, most of the people who watch CNN probably are, but
So it's very important to actually ask that question in this broad conversation.
Yeah, I simply asked and protested the war in Palestine. That's what I did. That's my duty as a Palestinian, as a human being right now, is to ask for the stop of the killing in my home country. And that's consistent with who I am. I'm a firm believer in international law and human rights.
right, sure you are.
And all my values come from that point. It's
No, your values come.
just like, to me, it's always, as I said, disingenuous and absurd.
So if your values come from international law, then why won't you condemn Hamas? If your values come from international law, why won't you condemn Hamas?
To ask such questions when
Disingenuous to ask that question.
literally 62,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel, and that's why I wouldn't really engage into such questions on condemnation or not, because selective condemnation is not, wouldn't get us anywhere. It's
Selective condemnation, you won't get anything anywhere. This is all America's fault. They're the ones that came up with these little pretty little phrases. You can tell I don't really like this guy. I kind of wish that they had the. Hey, you want to get angry? Let's watch how the BBC sympathizes with this guy.
Mahmoud Khalil is a Columbia University graduate. He was arrested by US immigration agents on the 8th of March. The US government wanted to deport him, arguing his activism was detrimental to its foreign policy interests. But in late June, after spending more than 100 days in immigration detention, a federal judge ruled that Mr. Khalil was not a flight risk or threat to his community and could be released. Mahmoud Khalil sat down with our correspondent Nomi Iqbal and told her about his experience.
Being separated from Noor at the time of her pregnancy was the most horrifying thing that happened to me, and that was the only thing that I was thinking about. I wasn't really much concerned about my deportation as much as I was concerned about the well-being of Noor.
Accused you of being anti-Semitic, a Hamas supporter, and they say that your actions pose a threat to US foreign policy, and their big foreign policy is to crack down on anti-Semitism. What do you say to those accusations?
These accusations are absurd and dangerous at the same time. And I take anti-Semitism and racism concerns, discrimination very seriously. But they don't have any place in the Palestine liberation movement in this country.
Has no place in the Palestine liberation movement. Yo, boy, yeah.
And Jewish students and just Jewish citizens in this country are an integral part of the Palestine liberation movement. So it's just the anti-Semitism accusation or the terrorism accusations are just smokescreen. They're trying to weaponize anti-Semitism against freedom of speech because they want to shut down the conversation. They don't want anyone to discuss Israeli crimes. They don't want anyone to discuss U.S. complicity in the genocide. And
they allow them to talk about Israeli crimes, the stuff that Israel does that's wrong. It's discussed non-stop in the media. Israel can't do nothing without it being on the front pages of the New York Times, on all the columns. So that's not true what he's saying.
in Gaza. And
It's because he was harassing Jewish students, or their movement there was harassing Jewish students, not allowing them to go to class, intimidating them. That was the issue.
the same happening with, conflating pro-Palestine activism with pro-terror activism.
Why don't you say pro-Hamas?
Because their goal is not to actually reflect on what these protesters are protesting about. Their concern is just like to shut down that conversation. And if there is, I was so once again, like I was so sort of like, I laughed when I saw that allegation about a foreign policy threat, because in my mind at that point, like if it's the threat to Israel, U.S. Foreign policy, like there isn't any threat, like it's thriving. But if they say it's about combating anti-Semitism, it is this administration, the Trump administration, that's actually fueling anti-Semitism, whether in the United States or around the world, by siding with right-wing parties across Europe, notably the neo-Nazi AfD, Germany's AfD, or by supporting a state that's committing a genocide in the name of the Jewish people.
What do you make of the criticism that some people have, who say, well, your green card, you're not an American, and so you have to abide by certain rules, that the same rules for Americans don't apply to you, and that you're here stirring trouble?
Yeah, the U.S. Constitution is very clear that freedom of speech expands to everyone in this country, regardless of their status, whether citizens or not citizens. And the other thing, what I was protesting was simply, I did not want my tuition fees, my tax money, to be used towards supporting Israel, a country that's killing my people. It's as plain, as simple as that. And it's actually it's everyone's duty to oppose war crimes, to oppose a genocide. And I don't.
And what have you? Did you feel that anything was being done for someone like you, or for others Arab students, for example?
Columbia University failed all its students, including Palestinians, Muslims, Jewish.
So, well, he's got the limelight on him right now, and the media is on his side. And I think it's going to continue this. And, the problem, let me just say what the problem is. Okay. The problem isn't to protest. You want to protest, that's fine. It's fine to protest. It's part of, in America, you got the freedom to protest. You have the freedom to protest. If you want to go protest, Nazis have the freedom to protest in America. It's not wrong to protest. I'm not against protest. Okay. What bothered me, and what bothered a lot of people, was when they started blocking Jewish students from going to class, when they took over a building, and when they were harassing Jewish students. When you start doing that, that's when you're entering into, that's when it's a problem. And that seems to be what happened at Columbia University, at Harvard, and all of those, and so that was the issue. That was the issue. Are you, as a foreigner coming from Lebanon to America, for enjoying the freedoms of America, to block an American student, a native-born American student, or any kind of American student from completing his education because of your harassment of him? The priority is going to be to the American student, not to you, a green card holder. Okay. And, I'm Palestinian too. So, I have I have some connection to you, to where you're from too, but you don't have the right to come to America and to make problems here. You have the right to protest, but do it in a way that doesn't hurt Jewish kids, and I know you conflate, and I'm not sure about you, but I bet you are, you conflate, or try to separate, Zionist from Jewish, that you love the Jews, but you hate Zionism. Well, 90% of the Zionists are Jews, and so, if you're protesting Zionism, then you're protesting Jews. And so you're causing, and while people may not actually lead to problems like blocking students or hurting Jewish students, though it may do that too, but some of your followers, your supporters, the people that you are representing, you can't control what they do, and they might, find inspiration to go a step further, like we saw with the stuff that's been happening to Jews. And as a Palestinian, let me just talk to you, Palestinian to Palestinian, okay? I'm an American. You're not. You're half American, but I'm a full American, and just say that as a Palestinian, or that it's really easy to get people to hate the Jews. It's so easy to get people to hate the Jews and to start persecuting the Jews. It happened in Europe so many times. It happened in Muslim countries, all the Muslim countries. It still does. Why are there no Jews in Muslim countries today? Why are there no Jews in Muslim countries today? Because of what Islam does to Jews. Okay. And so I don't know if I'd want to use my voice to turn people against the Jews. I think you should use your voice, for peace. You want to use it for peace, but not against the Jews. And see, this is the problem with those encampments and stuff, is that it became against Jews. That's why Donald Trump did all this stuff. And the fact that you can't condemn Hamas when Hamas's charter says that its goal is to wipe out Israel, I think that's a real huge red flag. And from my perspective, it's a great disservice to Arabs that you didn't condemn Hamas. I think you should condemn it and disassociate from it. And you say, well, I'm not associated with it. Well, then condemn it. It's almost like it's almost like the Zionism Jew. It's almost like that. It's not exactly like it, but the same way you say, oh, I don't condemn Jews, I condemn Zionism. This is how people look at when you don't condemn Hamas. That you want to conflate that the whole situation with the Palestinian suffering. But the lady wasn't asking you to condemn Palestinians. If she was condemn Hamas, and you wouldn't. And I know you're a Democrat probably, and Democrats don't condemn Hamas. They support Hamas. And so that's my opinion on the matter. And, I believe that that's how I see it. And I don't agree with you. I know that most Palestinians, applauded you, for what you did, but I don't. And I think you should have condemned Hamas. You should have condemned Hamas. what's happening in Gaza right now is because of Hamas. It's not because of Israel. It's because of Hamas. All right. Okay, guys. Well, I made it 41 minutes. So if there's any Muslims who would like to come on, I invite you. If there's a Muslim here who'd like to come on, I welcome you to come on. Oh, by the way, he's filing a $20 million lawsuit. He's filing a $20 million lawsuit against Donald Trump or the Trump administration. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I wanted to see what I'm kind of curious what CBN thought about Mahmoud Khalil.
Well, turning now to the legal battle over the Trump administration's move to deport a Columbia University student and pro-Palestinian activist. Protesters are demanding the release of Mahmoud Khalil, while President Trump warns his arrest is the first of many. Caitlin Burke has more.
As a grad student, Mahmoud Khalil is in the country on a green card. Last year, though, he helped lead pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia. Actions the Trump administration believes to be aligned with Hamas, a designated terror organization.
Our main demand, which is divestment from the Israeli occupation, there's an impasse in that.
Khalil became one of the most visible campus activists last year, acting as a negotiator for students who erected a tent encampment on Columbia's campus. Now his lawyer says he's being held at a Louisiana detention facility due to President Trump's executive orders prohibiting anti-Semitism.
They've invoked this broad, vague immigration authority that in theory allows, with due process, the removal of someone based on a certification of the Secretary of State that they're compromising national security interests. This is a preposterous and dangerous extension of that authority, and is basically meant to remove spies, not individuals engaged in human rights activism.
Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists.
A federal judge has temporarily blocked Khalil's deportation while the case plays out in court.
His speech is absolutely protected by the Constitution, and it should be chilling to everyone that the United States government could punish or try to deport someone because they disapprove of the speech they're engaged in.
Still, Trump says more arrests are coming, writing on Truth Social, quote, "If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here."
This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio writing on X, quote, "We will be revoking the visas and/or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported." Mark Caleb Smith, the director of the Center for Political Studies at Cedarville University, tells CBN News this case brings up the larger question of how much authority we want to put in the hands of the executive branch.
I understand at some level we might be sitting here thinking, of course we're against someone who espouses support for an organization that we generally do see as terrorists, but think through what this would mean for another president from another party or with a different ideology who might have a different approach in defining what terrorism or terrorist activity really is. And so broadening that amount of power could lead to some really severe abuse.
A hearing for Khalil is scheduled for later today, and his attorney has requested he be returned to New York while the case plays out. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Caitlin. Gordon, back to you.
Well, I'm all for free speech, and free speech includes speech that you absolutely hate. And everyone has a right to their opinion. Everybody has a right to free expression. Everybody has a right to free assembly. But let me remind you what happened at Columbia University. The president of that university issued a call for the New York police to come and intervene. And it's interesting the wording that was used: a clear and present danger. This isn't just speech. There was violence on that campus, and there were calls to violence. There were calls to support a terror organization that was in charge of Gaza, that launched a horrific attack against Israel and was holding U.S. citizens as hostages. This individual is a graduate now of Columbia University. They're no longer a student. And so why should we have, student protests? He's not a student anymore. He led an uprising and he took over buildings and he urged violence. And he urged violence against Jewish students of that same university.
I just want to say, I didn't know about him urging violence against Jewish students. That takes it to a whole nother level if that's the case.
Who said, we're no longer safe here. Well, in my view, that's no longer a speech issue. That is a violence issue. And when you do that kind of thing, when you take over university buildings and you destroy property and you threaten violence, well, no longer is it speech. You've committed a crime. And now is it proper for the State Department to say you're no longer welcome here? Well, the courts are going to have to rule on this. Again, I'm all for free speech, but in my view, this isn't speech.
Are miracles real?
Okay. Yep. I agree with him. And I don't know. I mean, those are some pretty strong words, that he was calling for violence. I see. I didn't know about that. Anyway, so the slope. There's the Mamdani slope. I think I'm going to change the name today to the Khalil slope. And I'm going to keep watching you guys because I get the feeling that now that CNN said the Mamdani slope is okay, now the Khalili slope is okay. What are the, let's see what they're going to say is okay next. Let's see what they're going to say is okay next. And let's just watch one last time. I know you guys, this is aggravating, maybe boring, but I think it's important to just to kind of see where we are on the slope. Let's see how Christiane.
Of the Israeli Prime Minister and his former defense minister. The Hamas leaders who were indicted by the ICC have now all been killed by Israel. This war has divided communities and raised fury all over the world, particularly fraught in the United States, where you can even end up behind bars for your views. One example, Palestinian activist and Columbia graduate Mahmoud Khalil. He played an integral role in the anti-war campus protests last year, and it made him a target in Trump's battle with universities, free speech, immigration, all in the name of combating anti-Semitism. In March of this year, ICE officials seized him from his apartment and threatened to revoke his green card. After 3 months in detention without charge, Khalil was finally released on bail. His story has outraged many, and I spoke to him, asking how it felt to be in the middle of Trump's crackdown. Mahmoud Khalil, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take me back to that day, which was awful for you and your family and all your friends and relatives and people watching when they came comfortable. Let me just ask you.
Absolutely.
Were you harmed at all at any time? Were you beaten? Resident of the United States. Have you still got your green card? Have they taken it away? Revoked it?
they are in the process of revoking my green card. I still have it as like a lawful residency. And as you said, like the charges against me are immigration related. They
Foreign policy related. Let's get it absolutely straight. President Trump on Truth Social called you, quote, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student. His spokeswoman, Carolyn Levitt, said that you were, quote, siding with terrorists. Why do you think they said that about you? And as we described when we introduced you, you were one of the student protest leaders in this very fraught situation of the war between Israel and Gaza on Columbia University campus. What did you think when they said that about you?
It's absurd. It's basically to intimidate me. They want to conflate any speech for the right of Palestinians with a speech that's supporting terrorism.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Which is totally wrong. The protests were peaceful. We're asking a simple ask to stop Columbia University and the U.S. complicity in the genocide that's happening in Gaza. And that's why I see these accusations as intimidation. And that's why it did not. They did not succeed in court. I mean, as of yet. And it's just like to distract from what's really happening. They want to distract us from the U.S. support, unconditional support to Israel in its genocidal war in Gaza. This is what's happening, or what happened to me and to others. And it's a message that they want to make an example out of me, even if you are a legal resident, even if you are a citizen, actually, that we will find a way to come after you, to punish you if you speak against what we want.
Can I just ask you, because you're right in the middle of it, and you were a student leader, and as you say, the events that you were involved in were peaceful. You never masked yourself, I don't think. You never claimed to be, Hamas or pro-Hamas. But I want you just to try to understand.
Did he never claim to be Hamas or pro-Hamas, or did she just give him that?
That in some other universities, there were people in the immediate aftermath, pro-Palestinians, in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, who essentially blamed Israel and, even exacerbated even support for Hamas. And I wonder whether you think, in retrospect, these protests were the early ones, maybe even some on Columbia campus, were self-defeating and got you all in the kind of trouble that you're in now.
What the heck kind of that?
What's self-defeating against an environment for committed by a state is universally
anti-Semitism that those concerned have raised. Why do you keep using it? What's the point and the value of that slogan anymore? Since both sides, why do you keep using it? What's the point to think that is a connotation for destroying a people, for all the issues of anti-Semitism? When you came out, and I'm asking you this because people will ask you, you did actually, walk around with a bunch of people, protesters who were chanting from the river to the sea, that whole thing that seems to just drive people mad, even though the Israeli government says it as well. People just seem to think that is a connotation for destroying a people, for all the issues of anti-Semitism that those concerned have raised. Why do you keep using it? What's the point and the value of that slogan anymore, since both sides use it?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and protesters keep using it because language matters, history matters, and from the river to the sea is a call for justice, for freedom, for all people between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Unfortunately, the pro-Israel camp in this country and around the world, they would rather deliberately misrepresent this slogan, because for them to cancel speech is easier than actually engaging and reflecting on this speech.
No, that's not true.
And I even would go like further with the globalized intifada that now the whole the whole country is mad about. The globalized intifada is we have to take it within its context, because globalized intifada is a call to globalize solidarity.
No, it's not.
In the world.
No,
the
it's not.
intifada is simply a word for uprising. And I don't want to give a history lesson now about like what intifada, like first intifada and second intifada were, but we're largely a mass civil resistance against.
Like suicide bombings, blowing up buses, blowing up restaurants, suicide bombings. It was very nonviolent resistance.
Israel apartheid and Israeli occupation, whether in the 90s or early 2000. So this is again goes with the fact that
to take a different track. Tell me again what it was like in jail in terms of, I don't know, the food, the sleeping, or child for the first time.
I don't.
Okay, well, that he wants us to teach us a lesson, and we've been watching Farfood. Yeah, they will listen. And CNN, like I said, CNN wants to lionize this guy. They're selling the T-shirts now, and he's a hero of the Democratic Party, of the left, and so. And, you know, about the word intifada, that, you know, this is the slippery slope. The slippery slope, you know. First of all, intifada is okay. And then Hamas is okay. Hamas is okay, you know. That's what they're saying. Condemn Hamas. Will you condemn Hamas? No. You know, and just before we end, one last time. Oh no, you want to see a love fest? I don't think I'll be able to stomach it. It's on MSNBC. MSNBC loves this. Shoot, where is that video? I wanted to show it again. I played it already twice, but let's go to history. Here, this one.
Just to be clear here, though, do you specifically condemn Hamas, a designated terrorist organization in the United States, not just for their actions on October 7th?
Or for their actions on October 7th. I don't know why she had to add that.
I condemn the killing of all civilians, full stop. But what I don't want to get into is no, I'm very clear with condemning all civilians. I'm very straight in my position in that part. But it's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas while Palestinians are the ones being starved now by Israel. It's not condemning October 6th, where 260 Palestinians were killed by Israel on before October 7. So I hate.
Watch Wolf Blitzer. I'd like to see what Wolf Blitzer says. Let me see if I can find, because Wolf Blitzer actually came to his rescue. Look, mm. Oh, democracy now. Yeah, but yeah, they're Jewish, but man, they are so far left. They are so far left. Okay. All right. Well, if I find anything about Wolf Blitzer's, when Wolf Blitzer comes to his rescue, yeah, he's Jewish too. Yeah, he's pretty far left too. He was dancing at Hillary Clinton's political rally a couple years ago. So, all right, you guys. Well, this was kind of a political day today. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, Jewish anchors. Well, you know, yeah. Well, the left here in America, the Jews are very prominent in the left, in the Democratic Party. They give 70% of the money of the Democratic Party comes from the Jews. I mean, they're very influential on the left. But as the left continues to coalesce around Hamas and to support Hamas, I think that you're going to see some changes. So anyway, this is the slippery slope. I'm going to change it to the Khalili slope, you know, and so, all right, you guys. Well, the Lord Jesus be with you. If you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Mahmoud Khalil, if you're watching, you're riding a crest of a wave right now. You're Mr. Popularity. CNN loves you. The Democratic Party loves you. Mamdani loves you. But what's important is to make sure that you're right with Jesus Christ, not the Jesus Christ of Islam, not Isa, the true Jesus Christ, the Son of God. For your sake, for your wife's sake, for your son's sake, come to Jesus. Say, Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Yesur, sa'idni. Yesur, samahni. Yesur, udkhul albi. We love you, but much more importantly, he loves you. Have a wonderful night, you guys. Thank you for being with us. Thanks.
If you have ever wondered why Dawah apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth. This happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to have to repeat that.
Now we know that this whole scientific miracles was actually
that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.